The man poured out the water from his flask and slowly fed it into the Tyrannosaurus's mouth. The dinosaur drank it, and Nick couldn't help but smile in relief. But as he continued hydrating the beast, he noticed its wounds. Remembering the vultures nearby, he knew he had to treat the injuries quickly to avoid attracting their attacks. He mixed water into the soil to create mud, then smeared it over the wounds as makeshift bandages. He wasn't sure if this would cause infection, but in this primal era, there was no time to worry about such things. Meanwhile, the vicious vultures gathered in greater numbers. At any moment, they might decide to turn the weakened Tyrannosaurus into their next meal. Nick worked faster, his hands moving urgently. By the time he finished tending to the wounds, he looked up to see a growing swarm of vultures drawn by the corpses nearby. Once they finished picking those bones clean, they would surely turn their attention to the injured dinosaur. They couldn't afford to wait any longer. Nick tried pushing the Tyrannosaurus with his bare hands, but his strength was no match for its massive body. Then, his eyes fell on some nearby bamboo and rope. His human intellect sparked, he had an idea. Quickly, he fashioned a makeshift raft from the bamboo and ropes, something sturdy enough to drag the dinosaur. Overhead, the vultures circled in greater numbers. As a warning, Nick sharpened his spear and drove it forcefully into the ground, a clear threat to the scavengers. Next, he dug a trench beside the Tyrannosaurus, lined it with bamboo poles, and lashed them tightly together with rope. Before long, the raft was ready. Gritting his teeth, he summoned all his strength and painstakingly rolled the massive creature onto it. Even with the raft's help, the dinosaur's weight was overwhelming. Nick strained just to lift it an inch, sweat pouring down his face. Yet he pressed on, step by grueling step. He would never abandon this beast, not just because they shared the same fate, but because of the bond they had forged through hardship. In this brutal era of survival, both had lost their kin. Their shared suffering had created an unspoken connection, and through each near-death ordeal, their trust had only grown stronger. In this dark, merciless world, they refused to leave each other behind. Finally, after an exhausting struggle, Nick managed to drag the raft to the riverbank. Here, they had water and, more importantly, escape from the vultures. As Nick refilled his flask to give the Tyrannosaurus another drink, the raw blisters on his hands were clearly visible. Still, he never once considered giving up. The day had passed, but rest was not an option. Because in the primal world, the forest at night was the most terrifying place of all.